My stepdaughter threw a lavish party on her birthday, in my house, with my staff, using my name to impress the crowd. I wasn't invited. She laughed and said, "You're just mom's husband, not my family." I watched the whole thing from the security cameras. The next morning, what happened next was rather unbelievable. I will tell you everything. First, let me quickly thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Simon Kane from London. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's go deeper into the story. I always knew I wasn't her father, but I didn't expect to be invisible. There's a difference, you know, between not being blood and not being acknowledged. Her name's Camilla. She came into my life when she was 13, arms crossed and eyes full of suspicion, like she was already sizing me up as some temporary fixture her mother had dragged in. I gave her space. I never tried to be dad. God knows she made that clear. But I did everything I could to show I was in it for the long haul. I paid for her braces, picked her up from volleyball practice, sat through talent shows where she barely looked up from her flute. I was in the pictures, but never tagged. I existed in the margins of her life, as if someone had penciled me in just lightly enough to be erased. When her mother, Diane, and I got married, it was small, backyard, string lights, catered dinner from a local Italian place we both loved. Camilla barely spoke to me that day, but I let it slide. She was 16, hormonal, still hung up on her dad who only called twice a year, but still got her tears every time. I told myself she'd come around. I thought money, though never the full answer, might help open the door to respect. So, I covered her first semester at college, gave her the down payment on that little Jeep she begged for, even let her host her graduation party in the house. She gave a speech at that party. I remember watching from the kitchen, sipping a bourbon. She thanked her support system, named her mother and 3 of her girlfriends, even her godmother. I wasn't mentioned. Not even a nod in my direction. I told myself she forgot. But some things aren't forgotten. They're excluded. So, when Diane mentioned Camilla was planning something low-key for her 21st birthday, just a few friends, some music, nothing major, I didn't think much of it. Diane assured me it wouldn't be a big deal. She's just not into all that flashy stuff, she said. I believed her. That weekend, I had a business trip in San Diego. I packed my things, kissed my wife goodbye, and left the house thinking I was giving the girl some space on her special day. I even told the staff to be flexible, that she might have company, and to accommodate within reason. I left the key to the liquor cabinet open. Stupid of me, I know now, and I made sure the pool was cleaned. Because even when I wasn't being acknowledged, I was still making sure she had everything. But late that night, in my hotel room, I checked the security cameras. Not out of paranoia, just habit. I own that house. It's wired like a bank vault. What I saw made me sit up in bed. The backyard was glowing like a Vegas rooftop. Neon lights, DJ booth, servers in black bow ties carrying trays of champagne. There had to be at least 80 people there, maybe more. Girls in sequin dresses dangling their heels off the pool ledge. Guys posing with cigars they clearly didn't know how to smoke. My chef was grilling sliders. My gardener, apparently doubling as a valet, was parking a line of Autis and BMWs that snaked around the cul-de-sac. I leaned forward, heart pounding, as Camilla stepped onto the patio like a damn queen. She wore a silver dress I didn't recognize, high heels she could barely walk in, and a smug little smile that made something twist in my chest. Then I heard her voice through the audio feed. "Yeah, this is all mine," she laughed, swirling her drink. "Well, my stepdad's, technically. But he's always gone. And I mean, I do live here, so." Her friends laughed. Someone toasted to her. Another asked, "Wait, you live here? This place is insane." She didn't correct them, just smiled like she'd built the damn house with her bare hands. One of the guys looked straight into the camera and waved, laughing. I sat there, watching it all, while my name became her flex. My money was the backdrop. My kindness was her aesthetic. Then came the moment that burned itself into my memory. Someone asked her about her family. She shrugged, cocked her head, and said, "I mean, it's just me and Mom. Her husband's just her husband. Not like he's family or anything." The way she said it, dismissive, like I was a doorman, like I hadn't paid for the ice in her drink, the roof over her head, or the goddamn sequins on her shoulder. I didn't move for a long time after that. I watched her pose for pictures in front of my vintage car, the one she wasn't allowed to drive. I watched her lean over the hot tub I had installed last year as a surprise for Diane. I watched my home get turned into a backdrop for a lie, and I realized I was a wallet with shoes to this girl. A feature of the estate. The statue in the foyer. The next morning, I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't even tell Diane what I'd seen. I flew home early, took the long way from the airport, and parked around the corner. When I pulled up, the place was dead quiet. Streamers still hung from the patio lights. Empty Solo cups floated in the pool. My staff looked sheepish as they cleaned up the wreckage of the night before. Camilla was nowhere in sight. Her car was still in the driveway, tilted at an angle, the front wheel practically kissing the curb. I went inside and logged onto my accounts. I canceled the card connected to her Uber, her food apps, her little shopping sprees. I called the dealership and had the Jeep repossessed, not sold, just removed. I reset the gate code, deactivated her keycard, and let the silence fill the room. I didn't do it in anger. I did it because I finally understood something I should have grasped a long time ago. If someone doesn't consider you part of their story, you don't owe them a role in yours. And when Diane called me later that day, frantic, saying Camilla was locked out and sitting on the curb crying, I simply said, "She doesn't live here anymore." She said so herself. I stayed quiet for 3 full days. Not out of guilt, not to wait for some apology, but because I was watching. I knew Camilla, and I knew what she was made of. Marble on the outside, hollow underneath. All performance, no core. Her world was built on image, on curated selfies, brand name alignments, the illusion of effortlessness. So I sat back, watched her Instagram stories dry up, saw her post an old photo with a vague caption, "Sometimes people change," and then disappear from her followers' feeds entirely. The silence, I assumed, was suffocating her. That was the real punishment. Not the car, not the money, but irrelevance. Diane, of course, was livid. The first night, she stormed into the room while I was reading and tossed her phone onto the bed. "You locked her out? You took her car? Are you kidding me, Nathan? She's your daughter." I didn't flinch. I kept my eyes on the page, then calmly said, "She made it pretty clear I'm not. And I'm tired of paying to be disrespected." Her face twisted, like I'd slapped her. "She's 21. She was drunk. She was showing off. You're a grown man, Nate." I put the book down, finally meeting her eyes. "And she's been showing off for years." This time, I just decided to listen. She stared at me like I was someone she'd never met before. Maybe I was. Maybe, finally, I was becoming someone who wouldn't be used as a human ATM in exchange for cold shoulders and fake gratitude. It wasn't about the money. It never really was. I could afford her party 100 times over. I could have thrown her a bash 10 times bigger, flown in celebrity DJs, gifted her a Rolex if I'd felt inclined. What hurt was the sheer audacity, the entitlement of it all. She used my home, my resources, my reputation to elevate herself, then cut me out of the picture like a bad photo crop. Not even an invite. Not even a text. I watched the whole thing like a stranger tapping through someone else's life. It wasn't the exclusion that broke me, it was the erasure. And when she posted those birthday photos, tagged the location, bragged in the comments, not one mention of me. Not one thank you. Not even to Diane, really. Just a performance of independence on a stage I built with my own hands. On the 4th day, the texts started coming in from extended family. My sister-in-law, who never liked me, sent a snide little message. "Saw what happened with Camilla. Real mature, Nate. Bravo." I didn't reply. Her cousin commented under one of my company's social media posts. "Funny how some people forget who family is." And of course, the group chat Diane had with her 2 sisters lit up. I saw the screenshots. He's punishing her for being popular. She's been through enough without this power trip. Honestly, Diane, maybe it's time to rethink this marriage. That one stung, I'll admit. Not because I feared Diane would leave, but because I realized how deep the perception went. I wasn't seen as a stepfather who'd been crossed. I was seen as a man acting out, the villain of their gossip-fueled little novella. I decided then that I needed to be even clearer. I sent one message. Just one. To Camilla. It read, "You made it clear I'm not your family. That's fine. But understand this. If I'm not family, you don't get family benefits. No house, no car, no card. Not until you start treating me like a human being instead of a prop in your life." She didn't reply. I didn't expect her to, but I knew she read it. She always had her red receipts on, performative, just like everything else. Later that week, a friend of mine, George, came over. He was the kind of guy who'd seen it all. 2 divorces, 1 stepson who stole from him, a daughter who sued him over college tuition. He poured us drinks and sat across from me in the den. "You look like hell," he said. I nodded. "Feel worse." He sipped his whiskey and leaned back. "Let me ask you something. If she were your employee, would you let her talk to you like that?" I laughed bitterly. "Hell no." He pointed his glass at me. "So why let it slide just because she's your stepdaughter? Respect's not a part-time gig, man. You teach people how to treat you. You've been teaching her you're expendable." That line stuck with me. You teach people how to treat you. I had been teaching her, for years, that I would take it. That I would fund her lifestyle and swallow the insults. That I would stand on the sidelines while she danced in the spotlight I paid for. That weekend, Camilla showed up unannounced. I was in the kitchen, frying eggs, when the intercom buzzed. She was at the gate, mascara smudged, hair tied back, looking half the person she'd been in those glittery party photos. "My phone's about to die," she said into the speaker. "Can you let me in?" I stared at the screen, then pressed the mic button. "Why? So you can throw another party?" She flinched. I could see it on the monitor. "No. I need to talk to Mom." I leaned against the counter. "Mom's not here. You need something else." She hesitated. I don't have anywhere else to go tonight." I paused, then replied, "You should have thought of that before you turned your home into a set piece." Then I clicked the intercom off. The camera showed her standing there for a few more minutes, then walking back toward the curb, shoulders slumped. She sat down on the sidewalk, phone in her lap, staring at nothing. I watched her for a while. Not out of cruelty, out of disbelief. That was the same girl who toasted herself 4 nights ago. The same girl who said she'd made her own life. Now she was crying in borrowed shoes, on a street she no longer belonged to. That night, Diane came home late. She walked in, dropped her keys on the table, and looked at me with tears in her eyes. She slept at her friend's place. On a couch. She didn't eat all day. I didn't say a word. I just cleaned the pan, set it on the rack, and walked past her into the hallway. Because at that moment, I understood something so clearly it hurt. I wasn't the villain. I was the consequence. The next morning, I woke to silence. Not peace, just the absence of noise. Diane had already left, probably to see Camilla, probably to beg her to come home, or at least come to her senses. The house felt like a museum. The remnants of Camilla's party were gone by now. The streamers, the drink rings on the teak tables, the smell of smoke lingering around the patio furniture. I walked into the kitchen and made coffee the same way I always did, grinding the beans slow, savoring the crackle and crunch, because routine had always been my rope in chaos. But this morning, it felt different. This time, the routine didn't ground me. It revealed the emptiness. The coffee didn't smell richer, the house didn't feel cleaner. It just felt hollow. I sat at the breakfast bar and pulled out my laptop, scrolling through news, email, the usual noise. But then, instinctively, maybe out of some strange guilt, I opened Instagram. I didn't follow Camilla, but I didn't have to. She was public. Always public. She wanted the world to see her. The first photo was still there, the infamous birthday shot. Her on the marble steps of my house in that silver dress, one hand in the air, a champagne bottle in the other, the caption, "Born to Shine." It had over 6,000 likes. Dozens of comments. "Queen. Living your best life. This looks like a damn movie." But then I scrolled down. The next post was just a black square. No caption. No tags. And the comments, they weren't pretty. What happened to the car? Wait, why are you at a Motel 6? This is so embarrassing, OMG. Did your stepdad finally cut you off? And then, my favorite. This is what happens when you fake the life and forget the people funding it. I didn't smile. Not even a little. Because no matter how ugly her actions were, no matter how justified I felt, there was still a part of me, buried deep, that didn't enjoy seeing her dragged. It was that strange tension I'd lived in for years. That tug of war between wanting her to see me and not needing her validation. Between loving her like family and protecting myself from her like a stranger. That internal ache where duty meets dignity. But I reminded myself, she did this. Not me. She was the one who threw a party in my home and told the world I didn't count. Around noon, Diane came home, face pale, lips pressed together like she'd just swallowed glass. She stood in the doorway with her purse still slung over her shoulder. You need to talk to her. I didn't look up from my laptop. No, I don't. Her voice cracked. She's miserable. She hasn't eaten. She's sleeping on couches. She didn't even go to her shift this morning because she's too embarrassed. I stood up, slow, careful, and walked around the kitchen island until I was in front of her. Let me ask you something, Dee. Would you let a stranger throw a party in your house, use your name, your things, your staff, and then tell you to your face you don't matter? Her eyes welled. She's not a stranger. I shook my head. She made me one. We didn't speak much after that. She went upstairs. I went to the garage. I sat in the car for a long time. Engine off, windows cracked, just breathing. That's what people never talk about. When a rift happens in your family, it's not always screaming and slammed doors. Sometimes it's long silences and exhausted lungs. It's watching someone you love become someone you can't stand to be around. It's knowing they'll cry and call you cruel, but also knowing you've given them every chance and they spat in your face. I replayed Camilla's words over and over in my head. You're just mom's husband, not my family. That line. So simple, so final. And yet now that the money stopped flowing and the perks dried up, suddenly I was supposed to be family again? Later that afternoon, I got a call from one of my staff, Jonah, the chef. Young guy, maybe mid-20s, always respectful. Hey, sir. I don't mean to overstep, but I wanted you to know something. I paused. Go ahead. He cleared his throat. At the party, that night, Camilla said some stuff. Like, she was telling people she bought the house. That you were just, some guy her mom married for tax reasons. I didn't say anything. I just closed my eyes and let the words fall on me like cold rain. She also made us all work double, Jonah continued, but never said thank you. She even told one of the guests that I was the help. I just thought you should know. I thanked him, hung up, and stared at the wall for a good 5 minutes. Not because I was surprised, but because hearing it from someone else made it real. Public, even. It wasn't just my humiliation anymore. It was shared. That evening, I saw the real post. Not on Instagram, on Facebook. A photo of Camilla sitting on the sidewalk outside the house. Eyes red, makeup streaked. Someone must have taken it from a car window. The caption read, "When you try to flex too hard and get humbled by the same man you called irrelevant." The post had gone mildly viral. Hundreds of shares. Comments ranged from petty to brutal. This what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. LMAO, not the princess crying on the curb. She'll be on TikTok next, telling us she was financially abused. I closed the app. I felt sick. I went upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the floor. Diane walked in, looked at me, then sat beside me. You really hurt her. I didn't even turn to her. She needed to be hurt. Silence hung between us like fog. Then, she said, "You didn't see her face." I turned slowly. No, but I did see mine. Every time she walked past me in my own home like I was a coat rack. Every time she bragged to friends about a lifestyle I paid for, pretending she built it on her own. Every time she called me mom's husband, like I was a footnote. Well, now she knows what it means to be left out. Diane looked down at her lap. I could tell she didn't agree, but she also knew I wasn't wrong. And that night, for the first time in years, I slept like a man who'd finally locked the door. By the end of that week, I became the villain in more family stories than I ever asked to be part of. The narrative took on a life of its own. Twisted, stretched, reposted in whispers and text threads, passed along like a bitter recipe. Somehow, I was no longer a man who drew a boundary after being disrespected. I was now the cold-hearted stepfather who threw a young girl into the street over a birthday party. It didn't matter that the house was mine, the staff were mine, the life she paraded around as her own was mine. None of that detail made it into the version people wanted to believe. People love a monster when it fits their agenda. And Camilla? She handed them the pitchfork. The calls came in first. My mother-in-law, who hadn't spoken to me directly in over 2 years, left a voicemail. You've always been too strict with her. She's not your daughter. Maybe if you remembered that, this wouldn't have happened. I played it twice, not because I didn't hear her the first time, but because I needed to feel the weight of it. Not my daughter. There it was again, the recurring echo. Not just from Camilla, but now from her whole damn chorus. Like I was the one who forced my way into their lives. Like I hadn't been the one to open my arms, my home, my wallet. All for a family who treated me like I was just leasing time. Next came the texts. Her cousin Monica sent a long message I didn't even finish. Something about how girls make mistakes and men should know better. Something about Camilla being traumatized. Then Diane's sister, the one who's always had a savior complex, tried to organize a family meeting to address Nate's behavior. The audacity of it almost made me laugh. They wanted to gather, to light candles of morality and pray the monster out of me. But not one of them had called before to ask what I was going through. Not one of them had shown up when Camilla skipped birthdays, ignored my presence at dinner tables, left every Father's Day gift I bought unopened in the guest closet. They hadn't noticed my fading patience. They only noticed the explosion. But the real storm came when Diane moved out. She didn't slam any doors. She didn't scream or sob. She just stood in the living room one evening, suitcase in hand, and said, "I think we need some space." I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't even ask how long. I knew the answer. As long as it took for her to decide who she really stood with. Camilla had been her whole life for 2 decades. Me? I'd been her partner, sure, but I wasn't woven into her blood. I was a late chapter in her story, and now she was flipping back to the part where things felt simpler, where loyalty didn't require questions. I spent the following week in a house that echoed. I worked during the day, took calls from investors, sat in boardrooms where people respected me, then came home to silence. The chef didn't come in that week. The cleaning staff kept their distance. Even the dog. Camilla's mutt, I ended up walking more than she ever did, had been taken to Diane's sister's place. And for the first time in years, I realized how much of my life had been consumed by other people's needs. How I'd molded myself into the infrastructure of their comfort while asking for nothing but acknowledgement. I thought of all the times I paid tuition without being told thank you, bought gifts that were met with shrugs, listened to complaints without interrupting, all while being framed as the outsider in my own home. It wasn't just about the party. It was about the years before it. George came by again, uninvited, holding 2 coffees and wearing that same seen-it-all smirk. He sat down, handed me a cup, and said, "So, I heard you're officially the devil." I chuckled, mostly because I didn't have the energy to correct him. You'd think I kicked her out with nothing but a duffel bag and a scarlet letter. He leaned back. That's the thing about entitlement, man. The second you stop feeding it, you become the enemy. I nodded slowly. She used my name like a prop, lied to people about what she owned, made a fool of me. He shrugged. Yeah, and now she's paying rent on shame. Let her. She'll survive. I looked out the window, where the sun was just starting to dip. Diane moved out. He raised an eyebrow. She'll be back. I wasn't so sure. Camilla, meanwhile, was unraveling. I knew this not because I stalked her accounts, but because people sent me things. Screenshots. Stories. She'd started a private Instagram, the kind people make when they want to cry in aesthetic lighting. Posts about betrayal. About learning who really loves you. Thinly veiled captions like, "Sometimes, the people you thought would protect you are the ones who hurt you the most." Oh, how poetic. She was crafting a heartbreak narrative while conveniently skipping over the part where she exploited a man who had done nothing but try. But then, something shifted. A woman named Julia, a family friend, called me out of the blue. She had hosted Camilla for a few nights when she first got kicked out. "I wanted to talk to you," she said, voice low. Camilla told me what happened, her version anyway. But after 2 days, she broke down. She told me what she said about you. What she did. I stayed quiet. Julia went on. She said she was embarrassed. That it got out of hand. That she thought she could say whatever she wanted and you'd still be there. That last line stayed with me. She thought I'd still be there. Because that had always been the script. She'd screw up. I'd look the other way. She'd take, and I'd keep giving. But now the script was broken. And without it, she was flailing. The next day, I got a handwritten letter. Slipped under the gate. The envelope said Nathan, not Dad, not Mr. Blake. Just Nathan. Inside, a few lines in shaky handwriting. I was cruel. I was stupid. I took from you, and then acted like you didn't matter. I didn't think you'd ever really leave. I'm sorry. I'll find a way to make this right. I just don't know how. No excuses. No manipulation. Just words that finally resembled something close to truth. I sat at the dining table, the letter in my hand, reading it over and over. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel angry. I felt tired. Not defeated. Not bitter. Just tired. Because all I ever wanted was to be seen. Not worshipped. Not adored. Just seen for what I gave, for who I was, for what I endured. And now, maybe, she finally did. The letter stayed on the dining table for 3 days. I didn't move it. Didn't fold it. Didn't even put it in a drawer. I just let it sit there, plain, creased at the corners, barely legible in places where the ink had smudged. A piece of paper, yet somehow heavier than most conversations we'd ever had. I'd walk past it every morning, coffee in hand, sometimes glancing at it like it might change. But it never did. It stayed exactly the same. And something about that felt honest. No follow-up messages. No dramatics. Just a note that said, in its own faltering way, I messed up. It wasn't an apology wrapped in manipulation. It wasn't self-pity or performance. It was clumsy, uncomfortable, and real. And maybe that's why it mattered. On the 4th day, Diane came back. Not permanently, not with bags or a suitcase, but she stepped into the house like she used to, keys in one hand, sunglasses pushed up on her head, and this cautious look in her eyes like she was expecting landmines. I was in the living room, reading. I didn't stand when she walked in. She told me she wrote you, she said, skipping the pleasantries. I nodded. Yeah. Silence lingered between us. She took a deep breath. She's working at a diner now? Part-time. Says it's humiliating, but also humbling. I closed the book slowly and set it on the coffee table. Good. Diane sat across from me, folding her hands in her lap like she was in a meeting. She's not the same. Not completely. But she's quieter. Less sure of herself. She asked me to talk to you, to ask if you'd meet her. Just once. I leaned back into the couch. She doesn't need me to say yes. If she wants to talk, she knows where I am. Diane didn't argue. She just nodded, almost relieved. Like the first crack had appeared in the wall. That weekend, Camilla showed up. No notice. No fanfare. Just a knock on the front door at around 5 p.m. I opened it to find her standing there, hair pulled back, no makeup, hoodie that didn't belong to her. She looked smaller, like someone who had been carved down by reality. For a long second, we just stared at each other. Then she spoke, her voice quiet, almost rehearsed. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I understand now. What I did, what I said, it wasn't just a mistake. It was cruel, and I was proud of it. That's the worst part. I didn't respond. I stepped aside and let her in. We sat in the kitchen, across from each other, not like family, but like strangers trying to remember what they once meant to each other. She didn't look around the house the way she used to. Didn't act like it was hers. That alone told me something had shifted. She spoke slowly, sometimes pausing too long, fumbling her words. I used to think you didn't care about being part of my life. Like, you were just there because of Mom. So I treated you like background noise. I thought, he doesn't really want to be my dad, so why should I pretend? She looked up at me, eyes glassy. But the truth is, I didn't want to admit how much I depended on you. Because admitting that meant giving you power. And I wasn't ready to be vulnerable. I studied her, not with pity, but with the kind of curiosity you give to someone who's finally stopped lying. She took a breath. I lied at that party. I told people I owned the house, that I paid for everything. I wanted them to think I'd made it. That I was this independent woman with this glamorous life. But it was all you. Every part of it. And when you cut me off, I panicked. Because without your money, I didn't have an identity. I didn't have anything. That line hung there like a weight between us. I finally spoke. You know what the worst part was? She looked up. It wasn't the party. It wasn't even what you said about me. It was watching you succeed on a foundation I built, and never once acknowledging it. Like none of it mattered. Like I didn't matter. Her lips trembled. You did. I didn't know how to say it. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. You're not a child anymore, Camilla. And I'm not an endless bank account. If you want to be in my life, you're going to earn that spot. Not with apologies, but with effort. With humility. With consistency. She nodded, swallowing hard. I want to. I don't know where to start, but I want to. I told her we'd start small. She'd come by twice a week. Help around the house. Assist with bookkeeping for one of my side businesses. If she stuck to it, showed up, stayed honest, maybe we'd find a new rhythm. Not as father and daughter, but as two people trying to build respect from scratch. She agreed. No arguments. No pushback. Just quiet acceptance. That, more than anything, told me she was serious. The first few weeks were awkward. She asked questions like someone tiptoeing around a broken plate. Didn't assume. Didn't act entitled. I gave her tasks, and she did them. On time. Without complaint. She showed up early some days, brought coffee others. Once, she stayed late, helping me sort receipts until nearly midnight. She never asked for money. Never once hinted at needing a favor. I noticed that. Noticed everything. Because I wasn't looking for her to be perfect. I was just watching to see if she could be real. Diane eventually moved back in. Slowly, cautiously. She didn't expect things to snap back to normal. Neither did I. But there was a new tone in our home. Quieter. More intentional. No more fake smiles. No more pretending everything was fine. And though it took time, Diane started to see it too. That holding people accountable doesn't make you cruel. It makes you sane. One evening, after dinner, Camilla asked if she could speak to me alone. We sat on the patio, the air cool, the lights from the pool casting reflections on the stone. She turned to me and said, I know things are different now, and I don't want to push. But if there's a way, I'd like to earn my way back into the family. Not just the house. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her, really looked at her. And then I said, you're on the right path. Just keep walking it. And that was enough. It had been nearly 6 months since the party. 6 months since Camilla sat sobbing on the curb outside the gate she once bragged about owning. 6 months since Diane walked out of this house and came back with a quieter understanding of what partnership actually meant. In that time, nothing exploded. There were no fireworks, no grand apologies aired over holiday dinners, no breakthrough moments of cinematic clarity. What there was, and this mattered more, was steady effort. Small, persistent gestures that stacked like bricks. A clear dish here, a genuine thank you there. A double shift at the coffee shop she never complained about. A call to say she'd be late. Camilla began to act like someone who understood that respect wasn't owed to her just because we once shared a roof. It was something she had to offer first, without waiting for applause. She'd earned a spot, not in the family as some honorary reward, but in the structure of our lives as someone who finally showed she could carry weight. I didn't love her, not in that warm, father-daughter way people expect when they hear words like forgiveness. But I respected the path she was on. And more importantly, I respected myself for drawing a line. That was the part people never talk about. How freeing it is to stop begging for basic decency. To realize that being the bigger person doesn't mean shrinking yourself for someone else's comfort. It means standing tall and staying put when everyone around you tries to make you feel small. One day, as we were cleaning out the storage room together, an unglamorous Saturday task she didn't try to weasel out of, Camilla found an old photo album. It was buried under some boxes of tax files, wrapped in a towel for no good reason. She opened it slowly, flipping through pages of our early years together. There was a photo of her first high school dance, the one I drove her to because Diane had to work late. Another of her 16th birthday, the one I'd organized while pretending it was all her mother's idea. She paused at a picture of us standing side by side, both holding sparklers. I forgot this night, she murmured. I didn't say anything. I just kept folding tarp into the corner. I didn't realize you were always there, she added, softer now. I guess I thought you were just around. I nodded. That's how most people treat furniture. She winced, but didn't deny it. That silence, that non-defensive stillness, that was growth. Things weren't perfect. I wasn't naive. I still caught flickers of the old Camilla sometimes, flashes of pride, traces of entitlement that hadn't fully died. But now, when they appeared, she checked herself. You could see it, the moment her face shifted, When she pulled back the sarcasm and swallowed whatever biting comment had almost escaped. That mattered more than pretending she'd transformed overnight. I didn't need perfection. I needed awareness, accountability. And she was giving me that, consistently, quietly, without the expectation of being celebrated. Then came the call that tested it all. Her biological father, the ghost in this whole equation, called out of nowhere, claiming he wanted to reconnect. Diane brought it up to me first. He wants to meet her. Says he's sorry. I didn't respond. It wasn't my place to block it. But I braced myself for the shift I thought was coming. The inevitable return to fantasy, the reopening of a door that led to nowhere. I expected Camilla to leap at the chance, to run back to the man who never paid a cent, who sent 2 birthday cards in a decade, who posted filtered photos of himself in other cities with other kids. I waited for the regression, but it didn't come. She met him, once. A quiet lunch at a neutral diner, no big social media declarations. She came back quiet, dropped her bag by the door, and said only one thing before heading upstairs. Some people only show up when they need to be forgiven for something they never apologized for. That sentence, that perfect, painful clarity, told me everything. She saw it now. She saw him. And maybe, just maybe, she saw me too. One night, about a month later, I got a call from her. Not a text, a call. Hey, she said. I was wondering if I could come over. Just to hang out. No reason. I told her sure, and when she showed up, we sat on the back patio again. The same place we'd had that first real conversation months ago. This time, she brought 2 cups of coffee and a blanket. She didn't try to perform. No makeup. No outfit designed for compliments. Just her, the stripped-down version. She looked around the backyard, the lights, the pool, the steps she once posed on like royalty, and asked, "Do you think I'll ever earn your trust again?" I didn't answer right away. I let the wind move between us. Then I said, "Trust isn't something you earn once. It's something you keep earning. Every day you don't break it again." She nodded, slowly. I'm okay with that. The sun started to set. We didn't speak much after that. But she stayed longer than usual, and before she left, she did something small. So small, I might have missed it if I wasn't paying attention. She picked up the coffee cups without being asked, rinsed them in the sink, and wiped the counter. Not because she wanted praise, but because she finally understood that love isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up when no one's watching. And when the door closed behind her, I didn't feel anger or grief or resentment. I just felt peace. It's easy to cut someone off. It's harder to hold the line when the noise starts. The voices that call you heartless, the guilt that creeps in at night. But looking back, I wouldn't change a thing. I needed to draw that line, not to punish her, but to protect myself. And maybe, just maybe, to give her the chance to grow outside of entitlement. She had to lose everything to learn how to earn anything. And I had to be willing to watch her fall, knowing that catching her again wouldn't teach her a damn thing. Some people say family is unconditional. I don't believe that anymore. Family, real family, requires effort, respect, and mutual care. Without that, all you've got are people with shared history and nothing else. I still don't know if she'll ever be my daughter. But for the first time, I'm willing to let her try. Have you ever had to teach someone that love without respect isn't enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take. I wasn't being cruel. I was finally protecting myself. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is stop letting them walk all over you. If this story hit home for you, make sure to like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more real-life stories about drawing boundaries and standing your ground. See you soon in the next story.